Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial of ethical hacking and penetration testing via Kali Linux. So in the previous tutorials we saw or we had a look at gathering information of a particular target or a particular host. So it could be just that gather information. You can also go ahead and gather information via social engineering, or you can go ahead and simply gather information through the techniques that I have shown you previously, that is through using Whois and DNSDict, DNSEnum, or the DNS mapping, and even the harvester to go ahead and gather the IP addresses as well as the emails. So the next step after you go ahead and gather information would be to analyze the information and then attack the specific party. So how are we going to do that exactly? There are two ways of doing that. One is through social engineering, and the another aspect of approach would be to go ahead and directly attack using the viruses or worms or trojans that you have created by yourself. So, but there is still one question in mind, that using technical knowledge to go ahead into hacking, it is good, but still it's not that easy, because you never know what kind of information are you going to give out while you're going to go ahead and target the attack. Or let's say if the person has IDS already and you go ahead and try to create some malware, and if the IDS, that is intrusion detection system, go ahead and picks up your antivirus, then your virus will be caught and you may not be able to perform the attack. And that can be quite complicated to go ahead and write down program each time you have to go ahead and attack different companies or different persons. So at that point of time, social engineering comes in place. So as you can see, the definition that I have found somewhere on the internet, that your softwares that have been created by any person or any software engineer, they can be applied patches, but there is no patch for human stupidity. So that is social engineering. You go ahead, try to use your charm or your techniques to, or your information, to go ahead and gather much more information by you going ahead and calling them or using emails through phishing and other techniques to go ahead and gather information. Social engineering is a very vast term. It consists of technicalities as well as non-technicalities as well. So what exactly is social engineering? So in this tutorial today, I will be taking you through what is social engineering, what are the different types of social engineering. So there are 5 different types: baiting, phishing, quid pro quo, pretexting, and diversion theft, which is normally conning people, and what would be the ways to go ahead and prevent them. So these are which I will be teaching you today. So to start with, what is social engineering? It starts with human interaction. Attacker uses human interaction to go and obtain or compromise specific information. The attacker may be a respectable person, and you may not even know that the person is trying to be what you may not even have thought of. Attacker may appear unassuming or respectable, or he may even pretend to be a new employee, repairman, or an old boss of yours trying to gather information. He may even offer credentials to go for a new network that he has created, something like that, so that he might try to fool you, something like that. And the final thing would be to assembling all the pieces together. So by asking enough questions, the attacker may piece information together to infiltrate a company network. He may even attempt to gather information from many sources, so that when you ask him any question, he may be able to go ahead and give you out any specific answer that he wants, so that you will be confident enough to give him out the details that he wants. So Kevin Mitnick was he's the most famous social engineer of all time. He was dubbed as the most dangerous hacker in the world. So as you can see, it's written on his shirt that I am not a hacker, I am a security professional. That was after he was convicted in jail. He always used to tell that people are mostly helpful, especially to someone who is nice, knowledgeable, or insistent. So for example, I'm just walking down the lane and there's some person who has some kind of problem. I will, without any hesitant, I will surely go ahead and try to help him out. But that is not always good, because the person who is over there standing, who is in some kind of problem, who is a damsel in distress, he may not even be a damsel in distress. He may even be the attacker who is trying to attack us. And Kevin Mitnick, let's say, Kevin Mitnick used his social engineering skills, or he was even called as a phone freak. He used that to go ahead and gather as much information as he could, and Later, he was caught. He stole billions of dollars just through phone freaking. And phone freaking means just calling the third party and asking him some specific questions by you being a legitimate party, or convincing the third party that you are a legitimate party. So Mitniff was even told that asked to go ahead and put in a solitary confinement because the lawyer even convinced the judge that he had the ability to start a nuclear war by whistling into a payphone. So that's not, this may be a bit exaggerated, but you never know, because as he was told that the USA itself was behind Kevin Mitnick for a very long time. And the worst part of it was that whenever he was about to get caught, but he was not caught, or he narrowly escaped some situation, he always used to leave donuts for the cops over there, just to tease them. Or so he was a very, not only a good phone freaker, but he was also very good in escaping things. So this is how he was. So he hardly used all of his knowledge to go ahead and attack or social engineer. He only used most of the time social engineering to go ahead and gather information. So he even has his own book named as Art of Deception. So these are the few points that he always told on each and every conference that he had. People always want to be helpful, and that's why they are easily being targeted. So what the hackers do are that they try to gain a level of trust in order to avoid any conflict between the person. And finally, when the party has enough trust in the third party or in the hacker, it's all about gaining access to information that people think that is not that important. So let's say, for example, I go ahead and I call you. Let's assume that you are staying in United States, and so I go ahead and call you and I gather information such as your name, your addresses, your data. I will say that I'm calling you from, let's say, for example, or let's take an example of India over here. I'll just go ahead and call you and I'll tell you that I'm calling you from the census department, and we are trying to gather information about how much person lives in a family, how many persons live in a family. So you can just give me out their names and the date of birth, and you'll think that, oh yeah, no problem. What's the problem in giving a date of birth? So you just go ahead and tell all of your names, give out your date of birth, and the person may even ask for email ID just so that you can go ahead and register you. You may even give that out, and when you ask any question related to any census, human census population, he may even give you that out. But what you don't know is that as soon as you go ahead and give the information, he's just going ahead and entering all of those things under your net banking or your phone banking technique, whatever you use, and he will straight away go ahead and use, let's say, for example, the forgot password option in your net banking, and he will easily go ahead and gain your all your details about your credit cards or debit cards, or even your bank status, as whether it's overdrawn or you have sufficient funds in your account, which is, according to me, quite risky. So and the worst part is that, let's say, for example, you are a male, and if a lady calls you, then humans always have a tendency that if a lady calls, then automatically they have a soft corner for them, and they always want to be helpful for the girl. They will never hang up on any specific girl. And so whenever you hear a nice voice on the phone, you always want to be helpful, and that is not as good. So you need to be sure, you need to be smart as to what the person in front of you, what is actually he's trying to achieve. So social engineering cannot be blocked by technology alone, or I can say it can never be blocked by technology, because the only fault that in social engineering would be of the person, not of any specific company. And when you say social engineering cannot be blocked by technology, you may always need to make sure that you are smart and you're not going to give out any information even to any random party. And people nowadays don't normally think much of that, because let's say, for example, people normally go ahead and create their accounts on Facebook, and they give out all the information on Facebook, such as where they live and what their phone numbers are, what's their email ID, or even the pics they take, that gives such much information about what this person likes, how does it wear. So that can be went ahead and created a specific amount of information. They can be used to go ahead and create virtual personality of your, and anyone can go ahead and think in your way and try to gain information on your behalf. So that is one way of going ahead and getting information. So that would be it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll be starting with the types of social engineering and how can you go ahead and defend them. So welcome to the next tutorial of ethical hacking and penetration testing with Kali Linux. So in the previous tutorial, we learned as to what social engineering is, who was the best hacker of all time and how he normally used to go ahead and gather information. Before I proceed with the types of social engineering, I'd like to give you a great example, famous example of Kevin Mitnick as to what he did once. He once, I won't name the company specifically because it was asked to go ahead and keep it anonymous. That's the reason. So what he did actually was that he went in some random telco company and telecom company, and he told the security guard that I'm the new guy and I have not yet received the ID card. I will be receiving it by tomorrow because I have not submitted the photo. So the guard thought for a moment that maybe he's lying and he did not. He was just trying to gain access. So the guard did not allow him inside the company. Only authorized personals were allowed. So what then Kevin Mitnick did was that he went ahead and took the name of one of the managers in different department and told that he was asked to go, come there from that manager. The guard can go ahead and contact him if he wants. And Kevin Mitnick even went ahead and did a fake call, and he tried to even go ahead and convince the guard that he was working in that company. And later the guard sent him inside. He went ahead and gathered all the information that he needed, and he already cheated the whole company and then came outside. When you're trying to go ahead and social engineer your way through a company, you need to make sure these few points, so that you need to be very confident in what you're talking about, so that if the person in front of you tries to ask you any question, then you should not be hesitant. Like if he asks you, say for example, what's your company ID, and you don't even know what the company ID starts from, then you don't need to be hesitant. Like you should not be hesitant like that. You should be confident. Even if you're giving him the wrong answer, him or her the wrong answer, you should be confident in whatever you tell, else it will go ahead and blow up the whole thing. That's the reason. So now there are a few important types of social engineering. The first one is quid pro quo, which means something for something. Then we have phishing. Phishing means fraudulently obtaining some private information, and the term phishing came from the normal word, which is phishing, F-I-S-H-I-N-G. So to give you a clear example of what phishing is, just think about the normal going on a boat and fishing. So what you do normally is you go ahead and take some kind of bait on your fish hook, and you just go and throw it inside the water. The fish come ahead and try to eat the bait, and then you suddenly pull out the bait, so then you go ahead and catch the fish. Similar is fishing. You go ahead and give out some kind of bait to a person or lure him to your target, and once he reaches the target, he goes ahead and tries to access his own email ID or his website or any random website. Then you automatically have his ID, and later he cannot do anything about that. That's what phishing is. Then we have baiting, again the same word, same thing, which is similar to a Trojan horse. That is a real world Trojan horse. The Trojan horse came from the old it was, I believe, Athens, or it's a Greek term. That it was the famous Battle of Troy that the Greeks, I don't remember exactly, they went ahead and gave a god gift to the Troy people, and the Troy people then went ahead and opened the famous Trojan horse, which was their god, and later on there were all the people inside who went ahead and later captured the whole area, who were sitting inside the horse. It was a very big horse, like some kind of a building or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's just a old story. So that's what Trojan horse is. In real world, you go ahead and Trojan horse in the previous days, what Trojan horse was exactly is that you go ahead and give out a gift to someone, and later on when the person frankly accepts the gift, but when he tries to open that gift, it is not the gift, it is some kind of prank. The same thing is Trojan horse. You go ahead and send some kind of, let's say for example, a PDF file or a MP3 file or video. You send a video through WhatsApp, Facebook, or Gmail, or any other email, and the person frankly goes ahead and opens that. But when he opens that, he will just simply won't find the thing that he wanted. But in the background, your virus will be executed, and you will remotely have the access to that specific computer. And that's what baiting is, which and I will be teaching you this in one of my tutorials later on. After that, we have pretexting, which is the invented scenario, that you go ahead and invent a scenario and then you go ahead and try to save someone from that. And finally, we have diversion theft, which is a con. So to explain in detail, just go ahead and explain everything in one line. Quid pro quo is something for something. You call random numbers at a company claiming to be from technical support, Eventually you will reach someone with a legitimate problem, and you will be grateful they'll be grateful that you called them back. They will follow your instructions. The attacker will then help the user, but will really have the victim type commands that will allow the attacker to install the malware. That's what it will be done in the background. Phishing is fraudulently obtaining private information, that is sending an email that looks like it came from a legitimate business and that requests some verification of information and wants some of the consequences if not provided. You usually get afraid, and the email that they have sent contains a link to a fraudulent web page that looks legitimate. The user then gives information to the social engineer, example eBay scam, something that was happened recently. So that's how it looks like. After that we have spear phishing, specific phishing, that is email that makes claims using your name, and if anyone gets caught then it's you, that means any other person acting on your behalf. Then we have vishing, that is phone phishing, rogue interactive voice system, and calling bank to verify information and all those stuff. And finally we have baiting. Baiting is real world Trojan horse that uses physical media. It relies on greed and curiosity of the victim. The attacker leaves a malware-infected CD or a USB drive in a location that is sure to be found. Attacker then puts a legitimate or a curious label to gain interest. So let's say, for example, you go ahead in a random company and you leave a pen drive over there named as Company Earnings 2009, and you leave it at the company's elevator. So there may be some curious employee, or he may be a good Samaritan as well, that who goes ahead and inserts the media knowingly or unknowingly inside his computer, and later on he installs a malware in the background. That's what it does. Then we have pretexting, that is you go ahead and do some prior research or setup to establish some legitimate company, and you give out information that a user would normally not divulge in. This technique is used to impersonate an authority, and you use prepared answers to victims' questions other than gathered information. Example, law enforcement, for example, the threat of alleged infraction to detain suspect for for questioning. Or the better example would be, let's say you get an email for signed up for a free credit report that you have. So you see an unauthorized charge later on from another credit company. So you call to dispute charged, and that was asked for your credit card number. They insist that it was useless without the security code, and later on they ask for your social security number. Then you go and talk to the fraud department at the bank, and then you come to know that you were already duped some minutes ago. And finally we have a diversion theft, that is a con. A con is to persuade or deliver a person that delivery is requested elsewhere, that is around the corner. When delivery is redirected, attacker persuades delivery driver to unload delivery to the nearby address. Attacker parks security van outside a bank. Victims going to deposit money into a night safe are told that the night safe is out of order. Victims then give money to the attacker to put in the fake security van. Most companies do not prepare employees for this type of attack, and that's why they are fully vulnerable towards this type of attack. So these are different ways of social engineering, and always you need to make sure that no matter how much you go ahead and patch your network or make your network secure, you always need, if you are in a company, you always need to make sure that the employees of your company very much, let's say, they know very well about these things, or that someone may try to go ahead and gain information. Even the concerned employee should not be allowed to go ahead and take their own ID cards outside the office. The reason being that if someone else sees the ID card, the ID number, they may even go ahead and use that to go ahead and gather fake information about their own company. So these are specific examples or types of social engineering. So, and it's not necessary that this may happen only when with hacking. People may even try to con you where there is no hacking involved, just by going ahead and gathering information, and later that you will come to know that you are the person who gave them the information, and you will be the one behind jails, and that person may be long gone all the way. So these are examples, and that's it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial I'll be teaching you about ways to go ahead and prevent yourself from these types of fraud. Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial of ethical hacking and penetration testing via Kali Linux. So in the previous tutorial, we took a look at different types of social engineering and how they are executed. So the next thing would be to go ahead and prevent these things. So there are different types of things that you would want to know, but before that, you need to know that the weakest link in your organization is not your firewall, intrusion detection system, cryptography, or antivirus software. You are the weakest link in your computer security. People are mostly vulnerable more than the computers, and that is a famous dialogue said by the Kevin Mitnick. So I'll go ahead with the ways to go ahead and prevent social engineering attack. The first and the most important would be the training, that is user awareness. Users need to know that which information they are giving out could be bad for business or for them, and they need to know that they should not give out such information because that can be risky. After that, we have policies. Employees should not be allowed to divulge private information. This will prevent employees from being socially pressured or tricked into giving out some random information that can be proved hazardous to the company. So, and lastly would be the third party test. That means a company should conduct some ethical hacking or third party test with their company. Having a third party come to your company and attempt to attack in your own network, the third party will attempt to glean information from employees using social engineering, and it helps detect the company problems that people have with the security. And finally, the thing you need to know is that you need to be smart. Before transmitting personal information over the internet, you need to check whether the connection to the connection is secure, and you need to check that the URL that you are going ahead and accessing is correct. If you're unsure if an email message is not legitimate, you should contact the person or the company by another means to verify the same. And you always need to be paranoid and aware when interacting with anything that needs protected. The smallest information could compromise what you're trying to protect, and it can be very harmful. So these are the different ways of preventing social engineering attacks. No matter how much you know about hacking or not, you will not be able to go ahead and prevent these kind of attacks because they are quite, or you can say they are much more properly targeted when you go ahead and do these kind of attacks. So now enough of these, let's say enough of these theories, and now let's go ahead and take a look at some practical thing. Let's go ahead and open our Kali Linux system. We have it over here. Let's go ahead and do some actual attacks. Perfect. So let's go ahead and do some practical problems that will go ahead and help us gather much more information. So now we know the different types of hacking, that is social engineering, technical, non-technical, creating fake accounts, phone calls, and phishing without Kali Linux. Yeah, that is one more part which I have not yet taught you, phishing without Kali. And this is something that you can do even if you don't have Kali Linux. So before I proceed with that, I will teach you. So just in case if you don't have any this for if you're trying to go ahead and gain access to some random system, let's say for example the Gmail ID of any specific person, and you don't have Kali Linux with you at that point of time, then what you could do is that you just need to have a computer with the internet connection, and you could simply go ahead and do this simple thing as well. So I'll be just using my Chrome before I show you. It's quite far easier in Kali Linux, but it's also easier if you go and try to do it something in a different way. So just go ahead and type Gmail, and I already have that over here. And when you get this step, just go ahead and click right click, save as, and save it in any of your random space, and make sure that this Gmail period HTML, any random page name period HTML, and just click save. And when you have it, you need to go on to your folder. So I'll just go in my folder, and you can see you have your Gmail.html. You go ahead and right click and edit with any text editing file, and go ahead and type Control F over here, and when you come over here, just select action ACTION and hit enter, and you have this first action. Just leave it as it is, click find next, and when you see this one over here equals to HTTP service login, go ahead and change this with your own IP address. That's, let's say for my IP address, random IP address will be 192.168. Let's say 68.23. any random IP address, and this would be my IP address, and just go ahead and put this out and everything will be the same. And over here, just instead of post, go ahead and type get. Perfect. So after you do these things, just go ahead and save this in your file and send this to the any party that you want to go ahead and hack into. And when the party goes ahead and tries to click on this link, your own fake page will be created with your own IP address. Or if you don't have an IP address, the better other better part would be, instead of IP address, you can go ahead and create random domain. Let me check if my net is still on. So I'll just go ahead and create a random domain. Okay, I believe my net is down. If you let me check. So never mind. So if you can just go ahead and create a random domain for, let's say, if for Gmail you can type ggmail.com or any random which is name which is almost similar to Gmail. And you can go ahead and check it over here as well. My net is not working, else I would have showed you over here as well. So these are different ways as to how you can go ahead and create fake offline Facebook accounts or Gmail accounts, that if you want to go ahead and gather anyone else's information, you can straight away go ahead and do that. Another method would be to go ahead and use keylogger or remotely install keylogger in the third party's computer, but you need to have remote access to that, or you need to have physical access to the computer, or you can go ahead and send some kind of virus to that person and ask him to go ahead and run, let's say, any mp3 file, and ask him to go ahead and install. So these are different ways of going ahead and gathering information without without using Kali Linux. So that is one thing. But now in this tutorial I'll be teaching you more about going ahead and gathering information using Kali Linux. So that would be it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial I'll be starting with the main point as to how we can go ahead and gather information and different types of social engineering attacks through Kali Linux.